Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Devin and this is Done Tutorials. We are going to continue off where we left off. If you are new and just joining me for this one, make sure to go back and check the last one out. The stuff here will make a little bit more sense. But there is one important part, is I'm going to be using nodemon here, which I downloaded and got running in the last video, okay, at the end of that last video. So I will leave a link in the description to the last video. Make sure to go check it out if you haven't. nodemon will be really helpful for you no matter what kind of development you're doing. So what are we going to do here? Basically, we're going to get this app running. It's going to be a little bit more back-endy now. Instead of just saying hello, it's going to actually store some stuff. So we're going to get connected to a mongoDB database. We are also going to need Postman. I don't have Postman open right now. This is what Postman looks like. It is super useful, super useful. I recommend everyone download this. I'm going to be doing this again in Visual Studio Code. What else do we need? What else do we need? We basically, I think we got it covered for the most part. We installed the dependencies last time. There's also one thing we are going to need is Mlab. So an Mlab account is just a simple way to get started with mongoDB here. All right, I logged in and here is what you are looking at. So basically what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to click on this create new, not this one down here, it's gonna be the one up here, and then you're gonna get into your databases. So you can make a free one, just go to the sandbox edition. Really nice of them to give us a free one just so we can practice and all of that. I mean, obviously they want your money, so they're gonna try and get you eventually to get one, but it's free forever, so that's good. So this is the one we are currently using for this one in here. I'm actually just going to delete everything in here, I think, because I was going to do it a little bit differently than I am. Yeah, so just delete all collections. But basically, you guys are going to need to make a user. So I already made a user, I believe. Well, I should, unless I just delete it. Yes, so perfect. Make sure you don't click read only. Username, password, normal stuff. And this is a very important string for this video. So this, I'm going to copy it right away. So this is how you actually get access to your database using Mlab, okay? So let's get started right away. Okay, so we already downloaded Mongoose and Body Parser in the last video, so that's why I was saying go watch that one. Very simple to do, but if you didn't know where that came from the last video, okay? So what we are going to do is actually, oh, I don't know why I did that. I like to keep all of them at the top here. So what are we going to do is connect to our database. So mongoose.connect, and then all you do is inside quotes, you paste in that big long string, okay? So we are going to put our username and password in there. So make sure that you are very precise with this, because sometimes if you do it without doing like certain capital letters, it is case sensitive, so just be careful. And then you have big long error, it's hard to find this one. Done tutorials, and my password is nice and simple. I don't really care if you guys hack this. Password 123. I think that looks right. So you just replace the username with your username and the password with the password. And these are the password and username you do for the user inside of your account, not your actual account, okay? So what we're gonna do now is use Body Parser. So we are using some middleware. Basically, app.use makes it so that you're basically sticking something in between going to this function here, and right after you go to the actual URL string, okay? So basically everything we put in app.use is going to be used in here. So that's how you use Body Parser. It used to be included with Express, which I don't like that they took it out, but I mean, for probably about 2% of projects, that's good. For the rest of them, it's just annoying, but whatever. Okay, so we're going to go app.use, and this is kind of a little bit confusing. You don't really need to memorize this part. bodyparser.url encoded, and then brackets in an object. You go, what is this? Extended is false, I believe. We'll see if we have any errors, but that is what I seem to remember. App.use, we're also going to do it one more time. Body parser, this is so we can use a bit of JSON. You can use JSON anyways, but this is going to help us out here. Okay, so this is going to let us actually use the request.body, which I have not explained yet. But so we're going to do a post route down here. Actually, you know what? We're going to make our model first. So we haven't went over this yet. So the way mongoDB works is that it stores your information in things like JSON objects. Okay, so it's a non-relational database where things like SQL will use tables, and that's considered a relational database. Okay, so there's no like linking and stuff. You guys have heard of that. Basically, what your data is going to look like, it's going to look just like a JSON object. So it'll look similar to something like this, right? Not quite the same, but I mean, you could do the exact same form as your package.json. Not really useful, but you could. Okay, so what you have to, well, you don't have to do this, but what is recommended when you're using Mongo is basically to make a model schema. Okay, so by making this model, I am kind of defining what I have to have in my documents for MongoDB. Okay, so because you can put literally anything. Like if I can put whatever information I want in there, and then it'll have keys. If it has that information, it won't have keys if it doesn't. So you want to make sure that it always is similar. Like there are reasons that maybe you wouldn't want it to be the exact same, but you, for the most part, want it to be similar. Okay, so you can kind of query it and understand what you're doing there. Okay, so what we're going to do is make another file here. Make it really simple. Usually you'll put it in a different folder, but for right now we're doing a pretty small one, so we are just going to leave it how it is, all in the root here. Okay, so typically you call them whatever your model name is. You're going to call it, like if it's users, I'm going to call it user capitalized. So I'm going to do to-do because we're going to make a to-do, and to-do.js because it's a JS file. Okay, so we are going to get a little more into Mongoose now. Oops, you got to require Mongoose at the top. Is equal to require Mongoose. That's going to bring it in, give us some of the functionalities that it does. And now we are going to do, we're going to go const, what should we call this? This would be to-do schema is equal to mongoose.schema. And then there's an object in there. So you can get rid of this. I mean, if I wanted to, I could go up here and go const schema is equal to mongoose.schema. Okay, so I could do that, but I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Okay, so I'm going to comment that out for now. Okay, let's make it a little neater here. So basically what we do in here is we will put whatever fields we want. So we want a text field. And then what type do we want it? So there's a couple different ways. Mongoose lets you throw an object in there, and you can go type is equal to string. Okay, and then just like normal objects, you have to put a comma. Then after this, there's a couple ones that are commonly used here. So it'll either be, for the most part, what we're going to do at least is go either default or required. Okay, so I'm going to go required. And then that is going to be true. Okay, so basically this is going to check for us, so we don't have to do a ton of validation ourselves. Well, you still want to. In a production application, for sure, you're going to be doing most of it. This just is another kind of layer there. Okay, so we have our text. Let's have a date. Then this one will use the default, so we type the date. Notice that the types are all capitalized, and then this will be default, and we are going to go date.now. So basically what's going to happen here is that if you don't pass a date in, it's going to use this one. Okay, but you can pass a date in and it'll use the date used. What else do we want? Do we want anything else? Completed. We always have to have completed. Completed, and then this again I will use a default because it's by default going to be false, right? Because you don't want to put completed things in there. So we are going to go Boolean, and now we are going to go default will be false, because it just makes sense that way, right? Okay, let's just throw something else in here just so you can kind of see what it looked like. Basically, if we want to do description, I don't know why, but if you want to do a description, you can just do like that. You can do whatever you want, really. You can do any one of these versions, but this is what it looks like if it doesn't have that object. Okay, and then you just put a comma here and put your next one. But we are not going to add the description. Oops. I like to leave this comma here because then you can just plop another value in there. And, yeah, no more work, right? Okay, so what we are going to do, since we have the schema, we have to define our model now. So we're going to go const to do. Models are generally capitalized here. Is equal to mongoose dot model, and then you pass in, first of all, you go make sure it's not plural. So I would go to do in lowercase. This is how you reference it and how I'd find the information in here for the most part. Well, not find it in here, but if I was referring to it by using another mongoose ID, because by default mongoose is going to give you an ID, so you're going to see if we put all these three in, a to do will also have an ID, which will be, it would be something like this. Oops. Underscore ID is always how mongoose does it. Okay, so there'd be another one right there, but we don't have to deal with that. It's really nice, does it for us. Okay, so now I'm going to put my schema in this right here. So to do schema. Okay, and now I'm going to export it. Module dot exports equal to do. So basically that just means that anything that requires this has access to this to do, which means that we are going to make objects like this when we have access to it. Okay. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to go back into our server.js file here. I'm going to go back up to the top. I like to do it right under where you connect to your database. So it's kind of, because it's all mongoose, right? We are going to const to do, capitalize, because that's how we're exporting it. You can change it. You just have to do a couple different steps. Not a couple, but one step. Require, and now we have to get our path, okay? So this one, since it is not in our node modules right here, we cannot just throw in, we can't just throw in to-do.js, right? So basically what you have to do is get out of this file, because you're in this file automatically. So to get out, I guess you're in node module. I don't know. Either one doesn't really matter because they're the same. You are in the file actually, though you're not in the node modules. Okay, so we're gonna go // so that gets us out. So basically we're on this level, so now we can go on anything on this level. Okay, so just think of it, you're starting inside the file. This gets you out. Now I can choose whatever I want. So now I'm gonna go to do. Notice how I don't put JS. I can if I want to, but you don't have to. It assumes JS. Okay, so we are going to make our post route. So what a post route is basically when someone submits a form, for the most part, that is generally like a generic post route. It's going to send information to your server, which is usually going to put something in your database. Not always, but for the most part. App.post doesn't have to be capitalized. I don't know why I was going to do that. And now we can do it right on the same route. So app.post and app.get can be on the same route here. I will include a little bit of a RESTful API introduction. I don't know if that's considered an introduction, kind of overview. Okay, you do the same thing, request, response, and now since we use body parser, we have access to this request object. So I'm going to model out for you guys. What the request object is basically, it's an object, right? Request, and then it's going to look like something like that, right? So there are a couple of things in here. So what should we go over first? We'll go body first. Okay, so request.body, so it's here. And then there is another one at that level, which will be params. I mean, it's not limited to this, but this is basically how you should think about it, okay? So if I put a name in here, I can put Devin. Yeah. Oh, oops, I should put that in the string and maybe make it look a little nicer. There we go. And then params will be, it's usually an ID, but there are other things you can put in there. So we'll go, what's a good name? Channel. Done. Tutorials. Very good. Okay. So basically, if I want access to this, which is passed, so this part is passed, kind of, you don't see it, but it's passed to your server here. Okay. So to get access to that, I go request.body.name. Okay. So really simple, just how you get access to all objects, right? All values inside objects. So you're just using keys, using that. Usually use the dot parameter to get, or dot operator. Is that what it's called? I think operator. Okay. So there is another thing that's passed actually in this string, which we'll go over a little bit later, but it's request.params.channel. So the parameters have basically the route variables in it. So if I was to go like this, it would basically be a string of IDs. So this means that if there's a colon and then a value, it means that it can be anything. Okay, so I could pass whatever I wanted in there, and that would be considered my request.params.id. So if I was to go channel like this, then it would go to this object. Then it would be like this object, sorry. And then if I went to / done tutorials, then it would come up with done tutorials. So if I went to / anything, it would come up / it would just be request.params.channels would be anything. Okay, so that's how you kind of get access to those values in here. I'm going to comment this out, it's going to be an error. Okay, so first things first, we have to build our object, because whenever you're making something, you don't want to make it as you're doing it. You want to build it right away, and you can check a couple things doing that. There are other ways to do it, but this is my favorite. So if I'm going to build a to-do, I'm going to go make a variable, let new to-do equal to object. Okay, so now I can place whatever I want in this object. So I'm going to have, what am I going to have in here? I'm going to have text, a date, and completed. Okay, so right now all I am doing is setting the text. Okay, so text is equal to request.body.text. So that means I pass it in as called text. You can do it other ways. You can pass it in as whatever you want. It doesn't have to be named text, but it's a little easier if you keep it consistent, right? Okay, so now I'm going to do an if statement here. Oh, it didn't complete it for me. Wasn't very nice of it. So basically what I'm going to do is check if there is a date. Okay, so if request.body.date, then I'm going to add the date to this, because I want to make sure that, I mean, you can't add nothing to this, right? So I have to add, or undefined or null or whatever it would be. So I have to check basically first if this is added, because if it's not, it'll just go default. Go to the default here. But if it is added, I want it to use that variable. And if I'm not passing this variable, or not passing that variable into the object we're creating, it won't actually use it. Right? So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. That's a little too close for me. Okay, so we are going to do new to do, and then it'll be dot date is equal to, I'm going to spread this out so it looks prettier, and now I can put in the value, so request.body.date. Okay, so that's assuming I'm going to call it date as well, but when I pass it through. So basically what's happening here is I am setting in the new to-do object, I'm making a date object and well, kind of has it, but making a date object and setting it to request.body.date, but only if it already exists, if they pass a request.body.date in, because you don't necessarily have to. If there's a default there, you don't, like, if there's a default, there is no real need to, or I mean, it might be helpful to, but you don't need to, okay? So what do I do from here? So basically, what I'm going to do is make a new to-do. So it's going to be const, I shouldn't have named that new to-do, but we'll just name it to-do is equal to new to do. Okay, so notice how this is the same as up here. So we're actually using this route up here. Okay, so we're going to go use this route, and we can pass an object into here. Okay, so what we're going to pass into here now is going to be this new to do. Okay, new to do. So then after this, it doesn't save it right away. So we're going to have to go to do.save. So lowercase to do, because it's right here. So I'm using this variable, I'm saving it. And we have not gotten to arrow functions yet, but we are just about to. So I'm going to actually put a space in, or a line break in there. What an arrow function is, or dot then is a promise, is that it's basically promising that this is going to happen, okay? So if this doesn't happen, then it goes somewhere else. But if this does happen, if the promise is fulfilled, then it's going to do whatever is in these brackets right here. So we do an arrow function. What should we put? We go, I'm using a lot of to-do, so I don't want to make it confusing. We'll go added to-do to make it a little easier. And now, basically, this means if it gets into here, then it's successful, it added this to do. So we're going to make sure that we send this to do, because you always want to, well, you don't always want to send it, but for the most part, you want to be sending it with the response here, because, I mean, you have to send something, and it's a little easier to deal with, especially if we're making like an API that's going to interact with the front end where you're adding this to a list and stuff like that, right? So basically we're going to add this. So this is the object, by the way. This is the exact same as it would be if we had completed added onto it, I believe. So we're going to add it to do. So we're just res.json, like I explained in the last video. It's just sending it through in a JSON format, okay? So first of all, don't put a semicolon here, okay? So you have to do a dot catch. You don't have to, but I recommend doing a dot catch for sure. And we're going to do an arrow function right here. So this is going to be our second one. So basically what this is, you're going to put an error in here, and then you can do a bunch of stuff, but I'm just going to go res.json error. Okay, so we're just sending the error along. So we're saving this to do. If it works, then we go into this one. Okay, and then we send this, move on. If it doesn't work, we go into this one, and then we send this error. Yeah, that's about it for the post row, really. I think we got it all covered. Is there anything else? I don't think so. Okay, so I'm going to save this. Server started, everything is working. I'm using nodemon, remember? And now we are going to get into using Postman here. If it will start up. Oh, that is a little small. Moving satellites into position. Very advanced technology. Okay, so we are running this on port 5000. So, oh, I don't want to update right now. We're going to go local host. Yeah, I already have one. So you have to type out the exact thing in here. So what I'm going to do is just go 5000, okay? Basically, make sure you include the HTTP, all that good stuff. And what are we posting it to? So what route are we actually posting it to? Because you can have multiple. So we are posting it right now to channel, but I do not want to do that. I would like to post it here. Okay. So just a slash. So just a route to 5000 here. Oops. Do not need that. I need this. What? Why am I opening up so many? What is happening? Okay, don't need this update. Stop it. I'm being attacked right now. Okay, so you can choose on the side here what you're going to use. I'm going to go post because that is the route. Go into your body, okay? So use the form URL encoded. A little bit easier to work with here for us. Okay, so this is our key. So I'm going to do text because I passed the first one in as text, and if it doesn't have it, it will give me an error. So my first to do. Okay, and now what should I do with the next one is I could put a date or I could just leave it. For the first one, I'll leave it, okay? So I'm gonna go send, hopefully it works, and boom, does everything. So it comes back with the ID here, which is something we didn't put in. We also didn't put completed. We didn't put in date either, but we knew date and completed were gonna be added because they are by default those values. Not necessarily this value, but it's whatever the time is now, right? So don't worry about the v for now, underscore underscore v. We can worry about that maybe when we get a little more advanced, but just worry about that we put the text in, okay? So if I don't put the text in, see what happens. Path text is required, validation error. So this is from Mongoose, okay? So basically this is what it lets you do by doing required, okay? So let's add one more. Let's go date. I don't really memorize the exact date format we are using here. Oh, movie. Google. What movie are we watching? Oh, Letterkenny is great, by the way. If anyone, if you guys like it, oh, I mean, if you guys haven't seen it, go watch it. Okay, so let's go date format HTML. I don't know. Let's take whatever date this is. Short date. You can use all the different formats. There's no validation right now to limit it to one type of format here. So this should work. And we got 2015 in here. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so this is the new one. Oh, I did two that are my first to do, but that's okay. Okay, so now I want to make a quick get route to make sure we actually get all of these values. So we just put in our database. So we're gonna go app.get, and then we are going to go slash. I'm actually going to just get rid of this for now because this was just a test one to show you the JSON feature. Slash, and then we'll go require response arrow function, boom, and all we do here is we go to do, so we're using that model, to do dot find, sorry, not get, and if you pass in an empty, if it comes through empty, basically it's not going to use anything, it's going to find all of them, okay? But there's a bunch of different ones you can go find by ID, which will find one, there's a bunch of them. But basically you can pass an object, so if I wanted text to be my first to do, let's try this. We'll try this one and then we'll change it after. It should come through as only those two, which we only have two. So let's not try it. Let's just pass in an empty object so it'll grab all of them, which would be the exact same as this one. Okay, so we're gonna use arrow function, or a promise again. So to do, so notice how it's plural. I mean, you don't have to, you can really name it whatever you want, but plural makes a little more sense here because you're getting a bunch of them. Okay, so we're gonna go res.json and just pass in those to-dos, okay? And now if it does not work, we're going to do a catch here. And it'll be the exact same. For this video, we're just going to do these really simple catches. I don't even need these. I can just do it on one line. So in ES6, notice how if I have a single one here, I'm not putting brackets around it. But if I have a double, I am. Because these are the exact same things, right? Because it's both arrow functions. Let's make it a little cleaner. Just with ES6, they introduced these, and it makes it really simple. So if you do it on one line, you don't need the curly braces here. But if you do it on multiple, you do, right? So same thing with this. If you have multiple, you don't need brackets, but you can put them if you want. I don't like to because it saves a couple keystrokes. And then what are we doing here? res.json. Then that is error. So hopefully you don't get that error, but if we do, we're just going to send it and be like, why do we have this error? So updated my server. Okay, and now let's go to localhost 5000. Localhost 5000. Whoa, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So here's our first one, and here's our second one. Okay, not the prettiest right now. And if I do the exact same thing, if I do a get right here, I should see it in the same way. It'll be a little prettier in this. Okay. So these are two objects. All right. Actually, you know what? Let's do a bonus here. Let's just make sure we understand the params route. Okay. So we're going to go app.get. We're going to make it really simple, but this will be fast again. Just another little bonus here. So if you put a colon, actually let's do /test/colon. Okay, so anything after this /colon is going to be a parameter. So what should we name it? We'll go channel. No, let's do something else. Let's do something more exciting. Favorite. No, okay, I'm gonna name it dog. I'm not creative today. It's too early for that crap. Okay, so we're gonna request response just like always. Get our arrow function going in here, and we are going to res.send. Res.send, and we're going to send our request.params.dog. Okay, so basically, if we go down to this, what we're doing is going into the request, and then we're finding the params object, which stores what the value is that you have in your route variable, or after the colon thing, right? And then this is just dog. Okay, so it'd just be like this. Dog, and then woof. I don't know. Okay, so that is what basically we are doing. Yes. Okay, so I think everything is good to go there. We're going to save it, go back. Okay, so it's test and then whatever you want. So it doesn't have to be a dog. I just put dog for some reason. /test. So if I go test sup world, we get our old one. And if I go test/woof, okay. But if I go test/ I have a dog named Mekon, so test/Mekon, there we go. Okay. So you can keep changing it up. There's a bunch of them. You guys can get to know all my dogs easy. There we go. Okay, that's it. I don't have any more dogs. All right, that is it for this video. So make sure to tune in for the next one. It's going to be on the put route. We're going to be updating our information, making sure that we can set the completed to false. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, leave me a like, subscribe, comment what you want to hear next. I look forward to our next video. Enjoy.